Run-DMC. Known for their Adidas tracksuits, gold chains, and laceless shell-toe sneakers, Run-DMC turned street fashion into a global uniform before sneaker endorsements were even a thing. At one of their shows, they performed My Adidas, and they told the crowd to hold their sneakers in the air. Adidas sent them $1 million deal right after. And the fans always wondered, why no laces? Some say it came from prison rules, where inmates couldn't wear them. Others say it was Hollis street logic. If a fight broke out or cops chased you, you needed shoes you could kick off fast. Whether it was survival or symbolism, that bare tongue sneaker became just as iconic as their music. Behind the image was a trio out of Hollis, Queens. Joseph Run Simmons, Daryl DMC McDaniels, and Jason Jam Master J Mazel. Instead of disco samples and smooth deliveries like earlier rap acts, they used hard drum machines, aggressive chants, and minimal production. That stripped-down style became the blueprint for hardcore rap. They were also the first rap group to break into MTV rotation. Their Walk This Way collaboration with Aerosmith wasn't just a crossover. It revived Aerosmith's career and dragged rock radio into the hip-hop era. Some of the hip-hop fans called it a sellout move, until it became one of the biggest rap rock hits ever recorded. Run was the businessman, DMC was the booming voice, and Jam Master Jay was the one who made sure nobody questioned their authenticity. He was so respected that even city gangs would protect the group when they toured. His 2002 murder went unsolved for decades, and rumors always claimed it came from a drug deal gone wrong, something nobody in the industry would speak on publicly until arrests were finally made in 2020. N.W.A. N.W.A. didn't just rap about the streets. They were the first group to openly say what people were scared to say out loud. When they dropped the police, the FBI sent an official warning letter to their label. Most rappers brag today about being banned, but N.W.A. were one of the only groups actually targeted by the government. Before they blew up, they were basically a super team built from different corners of Compton. Eazy-E was a dealer who founded the whole thing with street money. Ice Cube wrote most of the lyrics, and Dr. Dre handled the production. MC Ren came in as muscle on the mic, and DJ Yella held down the turntables. Arabian Prince was in the original lineup too, but fans forget he left right before the fame hit. Their biggest beef wasn't even with the police, it was with each other. Ice Cube was the first to leave, after finding out that Jerry Heller and Eazy-E were getting paid, while the rest of the group got crumbs. Cube didn't just walk away, he released No Vaseline, a diss track where he went at the whole group and their manager at once. After Cube left, Dre was next. He dipped out with Suge Knight and started Death Row, which made things way worse between him and Eazy-E. Fans still argue about whether Suge really strong-armed Eazy into releasing Dre from his contract by allegedly hanging him upside down by his ankles. Some people swear that story is real, others say it's a rap mythology. But even Eazy's own artist said Suge pulled up deep and made his point. A Tribe Called Quest. A Tribe Called Quest was the opposite of the aggressive rap coming out at the time. While groups like N.W.A. were fighting the system, Tribe made it cool to be laid back without sounding soft. They used jazz samples, calm delivery, and conversational verses, but still earned respect in a genre built on ego. Q-Tip was the architect, Phife Dawg was a sharp counterbalance, Ali Shaheed handled production, and Jarobi was there in the early days before dipping. What a lot of fans didn't realize until years later is how tense things were behind the scenes. Phife almost quit before the Low End Theory, because he felt like Q-Tip didn't take him seriously as an MC. That's why on the album, he opens his verse with, "Yo, microphone check, 1 2, what is this?" That was his way of forcing his presence back into the group. Even after they blew up, fans argued that Q-Tip hogged credit and made moves without looping Phife in. Phife later said he felt like a sidekick in his own group. They barely spoke for years, and the reunion only happened because Chris Lightly stepped in and forced them to handle it before it got permanent. Jarobi leaving early to become a chef became a running joke, but real fans still count him as a founding member, even though he barely recorded. And their Native Tongues crew with De La Soul and Jungle Brothers was never a label situation, just a collective that could have been what Wu-Tang became if someone had actually organized it. Wu-Tang Clan. Wu-Tang wasn't built like a regular rap group. They were structured like a startup mixed with a crime syndicate. RZA had a 5-year plan before they were even famous. He told every member, "Give me 5 years of your life and I'll make you all legends. After that, you're free." Most people thought he was bluffing until it actually worked. They signed one of the wildest contracts in rap history. Loud Records only got the group albums. Every member was allowed to sign solo deals anywhere they wanted. That's why Method Man went to Def Jam, GZA signed with Geffen, ODB went to Elektra, and Raekwon and Ghostface stayed with Loud. No group since has had that much freedom written into a deal. Inspector Deck doesn't get talked about as loudly as the frontmen, but Wu fans know he was the secret weapon. RZA intentionally gave him opening verses because he'd set the tone better than anyone. The myths around them only made everything bigger. There's still debate about whether the original 36 Chambers tapes were ruined in a basement flood, or if RZA made that story up to add to the legend. People also say Ghostface wore masks early on because he was dodging open warrants, not just for the mystique. Whether that's true or not, fans still argue about it online. ODB was chaos personified. He once picked up a welfare check on MTV, while platinum plaques were already hanging on studio walls. He interrupted the Grammys to declare Wu-Tang deserved the award over Puff Daddy. There are also stories that he once escaped police custody in handcuffs, showed up to a show, performed, and then went back on the run. Then there's Once Upon a Time in Shaolin, the secret one-of-one album they made and sold to Martin Shkreli for over $2 million. Wu-Tang basically created the NFT idea before the tech bros did. The fans were choked that nobody could hear it, and when the FBI arrested Shkreli, they treated the album like evidence and seized it. Money and ego eventually cracked the group. U-God sued RZA and the label over unpaid royalties. Raekwon said RZA tried to run the crew like a dictator and refused to record for A Better Tomorrow. Ghostface told RZA publicly to stay in Hollywood if he wasn't going to listen to the group. Even with all the lawsuits, dead members, and grudges, they still reunite, just enough to keep the logo profitable. Bone Thugs and Harmony. Bone Thugs were the only group Eazy-E personally signed before he died. And fans still argue that if he lived, they would have ended up as big as Death Row or Bad Boy. They came out of Cleveland, which nobody respected as a rap city at the time, and their fast, harmonized flow made people think they were using vocal effects before autotune even existed. They originally called themselves Bone Enterprise, and cold called Ruthless Records non-stop until Eazy-E picked up. There's a rumor that they pretended to be from Compton on the phone just to get in the door, then drove across the country with no plan and somehow got a meeting when Eazy heard them rap in person. One of their earliest breakout songs with him was For the Love of Money, which tied them directly to the Ruthless legacy. Their sound was dark, fast, and melodic, which led people to call them the Singing Gangsters. They rapped about death, religion, and the afterlife in the same verse. And rumors spread in the 90s that they were into witchcraft because of their reverse lyrics and the Ouija board references. First of the Month became a hood anthem, and The Crossroads turned into a memorial song that people still play for lost relatives. They're also one of the only rap groups to work with both Tupac and Biggie during their beef and not get dragged into it. Thug Love with Tupac was recorded during a session where Pac supposedly brought a gun into the studio. Biggie flew to Cleveland to do Notorious Thugs because he didn't want to get embarrassed trying to match their flow. Crazy wasn't just rapping. He arranged and helped shape a lot of the production behind the scenes, especially on songs like First of the Month, The Crossroads, and the collabs with Pac and Big. Even when members were missing or beefing, he was the one making sure the music still got finished. Wishbone didn't get as much spotlight, but he was the steady voice that kept the chemistry balanced when Busy would disappear or Flesh was in prison. Fans say that he was the glue that made the group performances feel complete. Flesh and Bone spent nearly a decade in prison after allegedly pistol whipping a friend and pointing an AK at someone during an argument. He was gone during some of their biggest years, and the group kept rotating without him, which is why their lineup always felt half assembled. Busy Bone was a wild card. He'd disappear right before shows, pop up drunk in interviews, or go on rants about being kidnapped as a kid. Crazy and Lazy held things together early on, but even they split off into solo projects and side groups when things got unstable. Mobb Deep. Mobb Deep became the voice of Queensbridge in the 90s, and people forget they were teenagers when they dropped some of their biggest records. Prodigy and Havoc met at an art school before they turned into a rap duo. And that contrast, grimy lyrics from two kids with creative backgrounds, gave them an edge nobody else had. Shook Ones Part 2 turned them into the blueprint for real rap. Fans still debate whether the sizzling sound in the beat was a kitchen sample or Havoc messing with distortion by accident. The sample hunt for that track became a whole obsession in producer circles. But Havoc almost quit rap before their second album dropped. He was ready to disappear into graffiti and production work until Prodigy convinced him to stay focused and lock in on the group. That decision changed both their careers. Prodigy's sickle cell anemia made his music darker, and Tupac dissing him on Hit 'Em Up showed how ruthless the era was. Their breakup was messy. Prodigy wrote a book while in prison and claimed Havoc wasn't checking in on him. And later an audio leak surfaced of Havoc allegedly dissing Prodigy. Havoc said it was someone using his stolen phone, and fans still argue about it. They signed to G-Unit in the mid-2000s when 50 Cent was recruiting street legends. When they linked with 50, they dropped a remix to Out of Control, which ended up being one of the only G-Unit crossover records where both sides actually sounded natural together. Prodigy's death in 2017, reportedly from choking during a sickle cell crisis, ended the group permanently. Some fans still think there's more to that story though. 3-6 Mafia. 3-6 Mafia came out of Memphis making horrorcore before people even had a word for it. DJ Paul, Juicy J, and Lord Infamous built the sound in the early 90s using lo-fi drum machines, devil references, and chants that sounded like funerals mixed with strip club music. Their name originally referred to the three founders, but fans started calling them 666 because of the satanic rumors, and they ran with it. Project Pat wasn't officially one of the core founders, but he was basically the unofficial fourth member before the rest joined. He was Juicy J's older brother and showed up so often on early tapes that most fans assumed he was a part of the group. His prison stories and slow, grimy delivery shaped a lot of their early sound before he even dropped solo records. Churches in Memphis tried to get their tapes banned. Parents said their music was demonic, and Lord Infamous made it worse with verses about rituals, murder, and the supernatural. Their early album, Mystic Styles, still gets credit for inventing half the sound Atlanta ran with later. Tear the Club Up was so violent that some venues banned DJs from even playing it because fights would break out instantly. Their lineup was always unstable. Gangsta Boo left after money issues and personal fallout with Juicy J. Koopsta went in and out of jail and died in 2015. Crunchy Black eventually left too, but not before he got shot in the face and survived. In an interview, he said he walked it off and lit a cigarette, which only added to the myth around him. 3-6 were way more influential than people gave them credit for at the time. Slob on My Knob became a template. The flow from that song keeps getting recycled in tracks like Plain Jane, WAP, No Limit, and random TikTok edits. Project Pat's cadence got copied so much that people don't even realize they're quoting him. They even had an MTV reality show called Adventures in Hollywood, and unlike other rap shows that try to clean up for camera, it was just Juicy J and DJ Paul getting high in hot tubs while trying to go Hollywood without changing anything. They were also the first rap group to ever win an Oscar. They received an Academy Award for It's Hard Out Here for a Pimp from Hustle and Flow. They accepted it in sunglasses, chewing gum, and didn't thank Hollywood once. At the time, people treated it like a joke, but now it's considered one of the hardest rap flexes in history. G-Unit. G-Unit started as a crew before the fame. 50 Cent, Lloyd Banks, and Tony Yayo built their reputation off mixtapes, where they hijacked other rappers' beats and made the originals irrelevant. 50 was already blackballed after getting shot 9 times and dropped from labels, so the mixtape run was his revenge strategy. Banks was the quiet assassin. Fans used to say he rapped like he was bored, but still better than everyone else. Yayo was the real street rep of the crew, but he spent most of the early G-Unit blow-up in jail. 50, Banks, and even Eminem wore free Yayo shirts on stage and in videos, which made his name bigger before people even heard him rap. Young Buck was added to fill the gap until Yayo came home. At their peak, they had everyone wanting the spinning G-Unit chain. That pendant became a status symbol before every rapper started copying the idea. They even launched the G-Unit clothing line with Mark Echo, and for a few years, it was selling in the same stores as Sean John and Rockaware. When 50 finally signed with Eminem and Dr. Dre, the group already had a cult following. They moved like a unit at first, but money and fame exposed the cracks. The biggest fracture came with The Game. He was added through Dr. Dre, not 50, and once his album blew up, he refused to go after Nas, Jadakiss, and Jay-Z, the way 50 wanted. After he went on radio, distancing himself from G-Unit beefs, 50 kicked him out publicly, and the fallout turned into the GU-Not movement. Game had whole crowds chanting it at shows, wore bulletproof vests with it printed on, and a shooting outside Hot 97 during the beef only boosted the chaos. Young Buck got cut from the group after 50 Cent leaked a phone call of him crying and apologizing to 50 Cent about money. 50 made it worse by playing the call publicly and saying it was just business. Banks drifted away quietly and later said he wasn't built for constant industry politics. Yayo admitted the crew stopped functioning once everyone started acting like solo artists with their own priorities. They tried expanding the roster with Mobb Deep, M.O.P., Olivia, and Spider Loke, but most of those signings fizzled. Even though 50 still uses the G-Unit name, the crew hasn't moved like a real group in years. That covers part 1, and I only scratched the surface. Let me know which groups you guys want me to cover in part 2.